Hello, friends and neighbors and family. Welcome to the finale of War of the Worlds 2, The Historic Invasion of Kaslo. I'm Rick Galbraith, the author. You might be familiar with H.G. Wells' book that told the original story. I wanted to write a science fiction story that my audience knew from the beginning was a farce. And I so respected H.G. Wells' work that I chose to use the same fantastic premise, a Martian invasion of Earth. But how would I resurrect the Martians that Wells claimed to have died at the end of his story? A friend invited me to experience a wine tasting near the cusp. The Halfway River hot springs were nearby, and the creative juices started to flow. The writing began as soon as I returned to Kaslo. I tried using primary and secondary school students for the cast, but was unable to gather enough players together at the same place and the same time. Although the scheduling logistics weren't made any easier, I managed to find enough friends and neighbors to do the job. You truly need to hear all 5 episodes. They aren't very long, in order to appreciate their hard work. All of them volunteered for no charge other than a glass of wine. Episode 1 explains how I resurrected the Martians and introduces the 2 main heroes, Sage and Norm. This odd pair were, for a while, more at war with each other than with the Martians. As the story moves along, they realize their inescapable duty to work as a team. Alongside VIPs, business people, and common residents alike, they developed a meritorious defense. What I enjoyed most about writing the story was the ability to fabricate it as happening locally, not in London, England, or Atlantic US, where Orson Welles set his famous version in 1938. Here in Kaslo, most businesses and individuals allowed their name to be used, and that made the dialogue more familiar and the listening more fun. So now you have watched all the previous episodes, right? Let's carry on then. At the end of episode 4, Norm spotted a Martian machine at the fore of the Moyie, standing on the beach and carrying 2 drums on its blue rays, which supplanted its need for arms. Aft of the boat, Sage saw several citizens vulnerable to the monster's killer ray, and she panicked, showing her deeper emotions under her otherwise brave, confident exterior. Also, at the end of episode 4, I asked my audience to choose which ending they preferred: the decimation of this beautiful village or the endurance of it made that way by our heroes. The voting ended in a tie, so I'll just have to give you both versions. Please enjoy the show. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let us take you back to the cargo deck of the SS Moyie and the porthole through which Norm spotted the Martian machine as episode 4 was ending. Beside him, Sage had vented her emotions. Now her shoulders were broad again. She held her chin high, and her eyes alerted her quick brain to the present danger. Meanwhile, Norm was moving away from her in a blur.
Her concern was clear. Laddie, the retired baker, had just driven his Unimog ambulance with 7 shaken citizens on board to what he thought was a safe harbor. Sage knew that no one was safe while in visual range of a Martian machine. Norm knew it, too, and had acted spontaneously.
Norm! Where are you going?
Norm didn't answer. He darted to an opening to the foredeck, sidestepping stored cargo on the way, then ran to the railing. Standing there, still wearing his tie-dyed shirt he loved, he shouted out at the machine. "Hey!" he said. You completely incompetent hunk of useless metal! What are you doing in my town?
Norm's words echoed all the way down the port side of the boat. The Unimog passengers had just alighted when the echo alerted them to their imminent danger. They scurried around the great paddle wheel, up onto the pier, and into the Moyie's dark cargo deck. When Sage saw Basil lead them to safe harbor, and the ache in her heart for those innocent people began to wane, she once again took control of the situation.
Norm! Get your friggin' ass back here! 5555, that damn 2. I've got to get Darcy into my speed dial. 555 and another 5. How many was that? Ah, there we go. No answer. What's that about? Where are you, Darcy? I need you.
Sage was confused. She thought it was cowardly of Darcy to abandon them in this time of need.
Sage didn't know that Darcy thought it better to cut off communication than to have Sage riding along on the perilous journey she and Ward were now undertaking, a direct engagement with a Martian machine.
Ward flew his ultralight towards his SS Moyie. Behind him, a large, fluttering nylon banner proclaimed, "Kaslo is ours." Masterfully, he flew over the bullet-shaped head of the machine and dexterously dropped the banner over its armored body. While looping, he dropped his dairy cargo in front of it.
Unfortunately, the invader didn't see the tantalizing offer. In recovering from the interfering banner, the Martian turned its head to the foredeck of the Moyie. Although it had not heard Norm's threats, it now could see his flushed face and wide-open mouth, still shouting out challenges. Norm didn't know the passengers of the Unimog were already safely on board. So now, you wretched sick people who would have this utopian town turned to rubble, here's the sad ending. Never mind, I'll still love you. I embrace your right to say something, even if it's wrong.
A green ray shot out of the courageous figure on the deck. Then Norm was gone. The Martian monster must have surmised his wispy resistance would repeat from inside the boat he was on. In a flash of green, the SS Moyie, the oldest intact paddle wheeler in the world, lost its claim to fame. It lost its very existence.
Gone, vanished were Sage and Basil, the mayor and the doctor, Laddie, and all of the several hundred other brave citizens of Kaslo he had helped to gather there. The entire town was dead except for 2 brave subjects who had turned it up a notch and, from the sky, had dared the Martian machine to eat the allergenic dairy fat and the cheeses they dropped in front of it. Then the shadow of Ward's ultralight passed quickly over the Moyie's foredeck, and the monster looked up. In a moment, those brave souls were gone too, victims of the deadly green ray.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have enjoyed tonight's episode of War of the Worlds, the historic invasion of Kaslo. Good night.
And sleep tight. Ah, as if. I hope you're happy, you sadistic morons. You'll have to pay me to keep your identity a secret. Now, for those of you with a sense of community, a passion for valor and heroics, and above all, an appreciation for what is, let's do this ending right.
Sage looked out the porthole where Norm had stationed himself. She couldn't see the foredeck where Norm was still standing, valiant and tall in the face of the alien, but she saw Ward's flyover. She saw the banner draped over the Martian machine, she saw the cheese drop, and she saw the Martian turn its ugliness towards the foredeck as it was freeing itself from the banner. She saw the horrific green flash forward to something she could not see. She knew that something had to be Norm, and Sage became deadly quiet before becoming bitterly sorrowful, before beginning to cry.
Sweetheart, what is it?
Basil?
Sage couldn't speak, and Basil knew something horrible had happened. He held her close, waiting for the horrible to eventually spill out of her, Soon they were reconciling Norm's death right there on the dark cargo deck of the Moyie, even while confusion was the main event around them. The love and care each had for the other manifested more profoundly and worked, as love always does, to bring them more strength to deal with the now that was in front of them.
Sweetheart, we will live the day when we get to tell our children all about this.
His promise was fulfilled. Their original plans were far more glamorous. Nevertheless, that same day they were married, to Basil's delight, on the SS Moyie. His aunt, Susan Howard, the mayor, had the honor of officiating their solemn union. Warden Darcy attended as best man and maid of honor. The ceremony was held on the foredeck, knowing that Norm's spirit still lingered there. With a slight rush of warm air, he gave the bride away.
10 years have passed, but only in our story. Friends, you are still young. The stork has delivered 3 girls. The family enjoys their Sunday afternoons at home, just talking. No TV, no phones, no game consoles, just the 5 of them engaged in warm conversation. We are taking you now to Sage and Basil's living room. It is a bright room with burnt orange walls, 2 dark brown rattan settees with cream cushions forming an L, 3 honey-glazed pine end tables, and, completing a set, a large oval coffee table parked on a lush maroon area rug, all accented by red and yellow curiosities scattered about. Sage refused to allow anything green or blue in her house.
On the coffee table was a tie-dyed T-shirt. It didn't even resemble the one Norm wore, but it was their respectful reminder of him every Sunday. On one settee were 2 girls, aged 3 and 5, shy and quiet, interested more in the red and white jelly beans in the yellow candy dishes on the tables beside them than in conversation. In the middle, the eldest at 8, Norma Rose more than made up for her taciturn sisters.
2 dogs, Amber, a golden retriever, and Pepper, a black coyote cross, lay by her feet. Norma was their go-to for treats and table scraps.
Mommy, why did you and Daddy call me Norma?
You know why, Sugar. Your daddy and I promised from our hearts that we would name our first boy Norm. Well, boys didn't happen. You became our 3rd girl, and we couldn't be sure the stork would visit us again, so we gave you that name.
Stork, right. Here I thought doctors and nurses had something to do with it.
Now, Norma Rose, don't you be a smarty pants. Does it bother you, Sugar?
What, that silly stork thing?
No, dear, being called Norma.
No, Mommy, no, not at all. I feel good that I was named after a special Kaslo hero. He was a hero, wasn't he?
The best kind of hero, sweetie. He gave his life to save the lives of many others. Sweetie, you were born on April the 1st, the same day that Mummy and I married. You were born 2 years later. We helped your Uncle Norm to make sure new people like you could be brought into the world, and a safe and beautiful world as well.
Did anyone else die besides Norm?
Well, you know, sweetie, there were a few people in the cusp and New Denver that, unfortunately, were just in the monster's way, including the mayor of New Denver. They call him Zeke. He was in his office when the Martians struck his building with their green ray.
That's awful, Daddy.
But guess what happened?
What?
Our mayor, Susan Howard, called your daddy to tell him that the invaders were real, then went home to change and grab some food.
Hello, Villager Cat. Wait, I'm at home. Howard residence.
Susan, it's me, Zeke.
What?
It's Zeke. I'm alive.
Zeke! Oh, Zeke!
The Martians sent their green ray to the town office.
Yes, and you were just saying that when the line went dead. I thought you were dead too.
Susan, it was the plexiglass that was installed because of COVID-19 regulations.
What? What did it do?
Well, I was behind it at the receptionist desk. It stopped the ray, Susan. The ray couldn't go through it.
Zeke, I'm so happy you're alive. But I have to run. I have to tell Basil this news.
Well, do it quick. They're headed your way. I have to check things here some more, but if you need help there in Kaslo, give me a call. We know what those monsters can do now.
Will do. Bye. Whew, it's a good thing the CAO loaned me his mobile. I'm going to need it.
She told your daddy about the plexiglass, but I had figured out that much right from the start. I couldn't prove my theory, though. Not without staring down a monster while holding an acrylic window in front of me.
No, Mommy. Now that would be really silly.
Far worse than silly, maybe. But I didn't have to. That was welcome news from the mayors, and I allowed us to set up our defense with a greater level of confidence.
Then you all met up on the street and then went to the Moyie. I wish I had been there. I love that ship, Mommy. Did you set up plexiglass windows to hide behind?
There wasn't time, sweetie. But when that machine spotted your Uncle Norm, we wished then we had done something.
It's not your fault, Daddy. What did the machine do next after it used the ray on Uncle Norm?
I couldn't believe it. It was stuff you can't make up. The machine attached 2 of its legs to 2 drums that it had made. Then, after it rose to the surface of the lake, floating on those drums, it sent its ray behind into the water and started to take off like a water skier behind a powerboat. It used its 3rd leg as a rudder to balance and steer its course.
Then it became even harder to believe. Dean from the Kaslo Adventure Center and Outdoor Store was parasurfing, coming around the point. He charged straight into the machine, lifted himself off of the waves with perfect form, and struck the machine's rubber with the bottom of his board. The board broke, but it also bent the rubber just enough that the machine couldn't steer. It spun in circles, then floundered and fell into the lake. The barrels kept the 2 legs floating, but the water was too deep for the 3rd leg to find bottom, and it couldn't raise itself up.
Did it drown?
No, sweetie. It was used to living in water before it made its metal frame. But it couldn't get its body that was inside its head of armour to rise above the surface, so it was rendered useless. Neither ray was working.
Hooray for Dean! Then Dr. Johnson, I can't believe her courage. She swam out into the flailing machine, dove below the surface with a syringe full of human cells containing the COVID-19 virus, and injected it into the glob, right through the slit that the green ray ordinarily came out of. So ironic, so successful, and so brave of her. She was a champion swimmer before she retired, and she put it to good use that day.
Before that encounter, Dr. Johnson had diagnosed that the 2 other machines, the one by the information centre and the other one by the Husky gas station, weren't lactose intolerant after all. Instead, they had a casein allergy, which is worse. There are no ruminants on Mars, and the milk protein was completely foreign to them. It shut down their system just long enough for her to inject them with the virus the same way as this one in the water.
Well, that took care of 3 of them, then. They started with 8, didn't they? What about the other 5?
Well, 2 more had spotted Ward and Darcy doing their loop and dropping all the cheese. When they got to the beach and saw their compatriot floundering further out in the bay, they began to move towards it. They tried using their blue ray to raise its body, but the rays were no more effective going into water than coming out of it.
We watched them from the cargo deck inside the Moyie. It looked like they were trying to get a little closer to their floundering comrade. That's when Dean showed up from the Kaslo Adventure Center again with a new board from the outdoor store. Instantly, he had air in his chute and he charged over the waves towards the 2 machines. Just before them, he caught a whitecap, propelled himself high enough to knock both of them into the water with one strike. They too could not get themselves upright again, and Dr. Johnson pounced. In seconds, both had been infected with the COVID-19 virus.
Wow, Daddy, can I get some parasurfing gear? I can swim now, you know. I'll get it.
Norma opened the door. Standing there was Aaron Mathers of Buddy's Front Street Pizzeria, holding 2 steaming large boxes in his arms. Aaron had dedicated a new pizza in Norm's honor, using beer-marinated ingredients, and called it, simply, the Norm. It was so popular that after only a few weeks he had to take it off the menu because none of his other specialties were selling.
But once a month faithfully since then, he bakes 2 large Norms and personally delivers them to Sage and Basil's home to honor them for the heroics that saved his town and his business. Norma politely emptied Aaron's arms of the boxes, smiled as he walked away, and kicked the door shut.
Pizza for everyone, and then some. So there's 3.
Dear, there's only 2, but they're bit.
No, Mommy, 3 Martians, and they're baked too.
Right, okay. So remember I told you I was talking with Darcy and Ward's plane just as they were entering town?
Yes, and that guy Randy something?
Morse, dear.
Yeah, Randy and Morse, dear. He tried talking to one of them.
Randy Morse, just Morse. That didn't work out very well for him. Come here and cuddle, sugar. Anyway, all the machines had dismounted from their bikes to check the surroundings and seemed to go off in all directions. But as Ward circled the ultralight, Darcy spotted 3 of them getting back on their bikes and heading north towards Meadow Creek.
And remember, at the very beginning, back at the Halfway River Hot Springs pool, your mum and Norm met Fred and Ethel from Meadow Creek? Well, I lived just north of there before I married Mummy, and when she told me their names, I knew who they were straight away.
And when Ward and Darcy went back to the airport to refuel, we sent them a load of milk and cheeses. We knew by then that the casein and milk fat would incapacitate the monsters.
What's casein? What does that big word mean?
Incapacitate means to attenuate, debilitate.
Oh, thanks, Daddy.
Casein is the name for protein in milk, dear. It's what makes it white.
Oh, cool. What's the name of protein in chocolate milk, Mommy?
Why, cocoa, of course.
Sweetie, Mummy's teasing you. It's the same, casein. Casein is in the milk, and the milk is coloured brown by the cocoa.
I majored in physics, not biochemistry.
What's biochemistry, Mommy?
Sweetie, don't you want to know what happened to the last 3 machines?
Oh, yes, I do, more than anything else.
Well, first of all, Dr. Johnson had gone to meet Ward and Darcy at the airport with a bag of syringes filled with spit from her COVID-19 patient. They were planning to chase after those 3 machines as soon as they reloaded with cheese and milk. Meanwhile, my friends, Fred and Ethel planned to meet them on the highway where the plane was going to land, alongside the marshes just before you enter town. Well, Fred lived in the Malaysian jungles for a while. He learned how to hunt with a blowpipe and poison darts. The syringes the doctor was carrying were the same size as those darts, and they fit perfectly into the blowgun.
Can I have a blowgun, Daddy?
Norma Rose, you are incorrigible. Meanwhile, Ethel had played with pea shooters as a kid. She could shoot a pea 25 yards. A pea injected with the virus would only go 10 yards, but that was enough for her. Between the 2 of them, there was uncanny accuracy. Those last 3 machines didn't stand a chance.
What does incorrigible mean?
It means I love you, sugar. Darcy phoned me from the air, and when she said the last 3 machines had been infected, we all cheered. There has never been a louder cheer on that beautiful boat, sugar.
And then I told Mummy, no excuses now, Sage, we're getting married.
We made sure all 8 monsters died this time. Their carcasses were gathered, enclosed in acrylic boxes, and displayed for everyone to see at the Loggers Arena during Kaslo May Days events. Right after the Kaslo May Days wind-up, we had a bonfire at the beach and cremated every one of them. Unless they know how to resurrect from ashes, they are gone forever, sugar.
Sage ended the story and began doling out the pizza. Basil lifted his glass and proposed a toast.
Norm, dear friend, thanks to you, they all lived happily ever after.
Oh my, I forgot to turn it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, I'd better, excuse me a sec. Hello?
Hello? Is that the narrator?
At this moment I am, yes. Who's this?
It's Mayor Howard.
No, I'm sorry. It's too late. Your lines are finished.
Well, there's more. It's important. Put me through to my nephew.
But this is really weird. Basil, it's for you. It's useless, Mayor. He can't hear me. I'm not on the set.
But it's an emergency, and I must get through to him, or Sage. They don't have their phones on.
Well, I'll just have to take a message then and write it into the script.
Well, if that works. Look, it's horrible. I just got a phone.
What's horrible, Mayor?
From management at Ainsworth Hot Springs Resort. There's a green glob in their pool.
Sleep tight.
What's that flare? You see it? A green flare. coming from Mars. Kind of a green mist behind it. It's getting closer. You see it, Bermuda? Come in, Bermuda. Houston, come in. What's going on? Tracking station 63. Can you hear me, Madrid? Can anybody hear me? Come in. Come in.
Where are you, 8X3R? What's the matter? Where are you?